Welcome to the Belonging Podcast by Elev8 Villages. You belong here exactly how you are. I'm so excited. Our guest today, joining us from Nashville, Tennessee, is a father, a husband, a TEDx speaker. He is an entrepreneur, a human connector on a level that I rarely see. So let me introduce to you Mr. Jim Morris. Welcome to the Belonging Podcast. We are so happy that you're here.
Thank you. Thank you. What an intro. Let's go. It got me jazzed up over here in my seat. I'm ready to dive in. It's always a pleasure to converse with you, Melissa. I'm really excited to dive in.
All right. Thank you, Jim. We do have great conversations. I did forget to mention that you are an OG of the Belonging Roundtable. So really in those early conversations about belonging that really inspired this podcast. So thank you also for that. I'm just so been counting down the days and the hours to this recording in this podcast. I know we're going to go some really great places to get today. So let's start
Excited.
off with a simple question. What does belonging mean to you? And how do you create belonging in this world?
I think belonging is an important term to define, right? And I think it really starts with love. When you are in a position to give love as well as receive love, I think that's when you really start to belong. You start to realize and also analyze who you're attracted to, what you're repelled to, and how to really show up in the best possible opportunity, not only for yourself, but also for those people you engage with.
So how do you, and in your intro, I said you're a master human connector, which you are, you're a big networker. How do you, let's just use a networking event or like a business event, something like that as an example. If it's an in-person event and you have guests coming, maybe you know some of them, you don't know others. How I like to say there's like some Jim Morris honey that gets rubbed on everything. And you may not be aware of what you do, but you may have some strategy behind it. How do you feel? Like, what do you do to create a sense of belonging in your events, in your space, when you're speaking, whatever it is? How do you create that sense of belonging? Because you do it so well and so naturally.
Well, I think it starts with why are you in the room in the first place, right? And we go into all types of rooms, whether it's in person, whether it's digitally, whether you're messaging or commenting, or you're in the private message group, WhatsApp, right? We have all these tools. And for me, the first thing that I want to do is I want to act like everybody's my best friend. And I say that, and introverts usually go, whoa, that's overwhelming. And this actually is a tool that I teach and work with introverts because this is how you break through to the other side. Everybody has a friend. Everybody has a best friend. Everybody has a favorite family member, right? Uncle, cousin, whoever that could be in your world and in your life. And if I can show up in a room and put myself in a position as if I'm talking to that person, a lot of things that I do come natural, right? So the first skill that I would teach or that I would advise on is talk to people like they're your bestie, they're your homie, and stop putting on the mask that we have to be a certain way, we have to show up a certain way. This event is, all people who make way more money than me, or they're more, further along the path of entrepreneurship or business owners. And we tend to say these things internally. And that's also important is what are we telling each other or what are we telling ourselves internally? So when I think of it, I always say like, I imagine that I'm just talking to a friend. I say yo to my friends. So in text messages, in DMs, in person, I'm like, yo, what's up? What's happening? How we living? Right? And people are like, how we living? And they lean in a little bit. right? And we
Mm,
start to engage, we start to have a conversation. You belong in any room. And I think it's really important to understand that. And with that, you belong because you have to put yourself in a position that everybody's going to be your friend or everybody already is your friend, right? So when I say yo, and I'm at a charity event and everybody is donating 30, 40, 50, $75,000 and I'm not, I still say yo, right? And it comes back to being comfortable with who I am, being comfortable that people are going to allow me to be me and allow me to belong. It goes the same way on social media, right? So and we work with people with building content and extracting their genius and really allowing them to show up as themselves. But almost every single client pushes back in our marketing company and is like, well, I want to be this or I want to be that, or, I don't want to tell this story. I don't want to share what happened last week. Everybody wants to be polished, right? Everybody wants to be
mm,
perfect.
mm.
And I think you have to realize that you're unique. You're not perfect. And what people are attracted to, what people love to be around, is you being uniquely yourself. So when I think of belonging, when I think of events, when I think of social media, the first thing that always comes to my mind is like, act like you're hanging out with your bestie, talk to people as if they're your best friend, not because, you need to be someone else, but because you need to be you. And people are attracted to you. Be the weird, be the quirky, be the funny if humor's a thing. Like I remember a couple years ago, someone asked me, they said, I heard that it's advantageous to be humorous. It's advantageous to crack jokes when you connect with people. And my response to them was, is it advantageous to you? And they were like, well, no, it's kind of awkward. I don't really crack a lot of jokes. I'm not really that witty. It's not really my thing. I said, why are you trying to be a comedian when you're not a comedian?
Yeah.
Show up as if you were talking to your bestie. So whenever I go into events, whenever I work with people, whether it's one-on-one, whenever I keynote, whenever I'm doing whatever, especially keynoting, I have to go in a place where, because I'm normal, I'm just like everybody else. I'm not perfect. I have to go in a place where I visually look into the audience and see a bunch of people that love me, see a bunch of
Mm.
people that I enjoy hanging out with. Because when there's 5, 6, 700 people in a room, it is overwhelming, right? And I've got to take my own medicine just as much as I dish it out.
I'm curious because it sounds like you give belonging by feeling your own sense of belonging. Like you're choosing to say, I belong here. And I don't know if that's come from years of internal work or if that's just natural for you. But in being so present in your own belonging, that's why people around you feel like they belong. Was there ever a time that you felt like you didn't belong? Like has this been a journey to get to this level of confidence, or was there ever a time you were like, wow, I wish I belonged and I don't?
Yes. And I think you're right. Just to go back real quick about that level of belonging, it took a lot of work. Took a lot of work, right? And anything that matters to you, anything that's important takes practice, it takes
Mm.
repetition, it takes you loving yourself, right? And I think that's where this whole belonging thing stems from is that internal love that you have to navigate before you can give that love. So it took a while. And to answer your question more directly, there was a time where I didn't belong. I was selling drugs. I knew in my heart, my soul, that that's not where I belong. That's not who I
Mm.
wanted to be. It was out of necessity. It was out of fear. It was out of a situation where I was trying to get out of. I knew I needed to go to college. I knew that I would have, wanted to educate myself. I'm a lifelong learner. And my parents couldn't pay for it. I got a scholarship to play baseball and I was $5,000 short. And they told me a couple weeks before the semester started. And I went to my parents And at that time, my parents were addicted to OxyContin. And I went to them and I said, "Hey, they didn't give me the whole $40,000. They just gave me 35,000. I just need 5,000. Like, I can't wait to start. I want to play baseball. I went a couple weeks prior, met some of the people on the team, all those things, right?" And I said, "Well, you're not going to go to college then." So, you have to do things in certain scenarios to get to the next step. But as I was doing those things, and they're not the right things, right? Like, I made
Mm,
mistakes. I'm not proud of this moment. I'm just sharing it and being vulnerable and honest with you that in those times when I was doing that, I didn't belong. I didn't belong around the gang. I didn't belong in the trap house. I didn't belong in those scenarios or those situations in the back of those cars and in sketchy parking lots and around people that I didn't align with. Um, so that was tough. That was hard. And when you're doing something that you know is wrong, that you feel like you don't belong, there's always something tugging at you. There's always
mm,
something pulling at you.
mhm,
And that's a tough feeling, and it took a long time to navigate after I stopped doing that and moved to the other side, um, and it all I didn't love myself enough to have confidence to move through the fear, and once I started to love myself, even of my mistakes, even of my shame, even of the grief I had, the anger, right? That was a big piece of my early 20s was I was really mad, I was really angry. I used to get in fights with people that I knew I would lose. I used to get the shit kicked out of me, and it was because I didn't love myself, and it was because I didn't know how to handle my emotions, and I didn't know who to talk to, and I didn't know if anybody even loved me. So through that work, through navigating those tough situations and scenarios, I started meeting people who did give me love, started meeting
mhm,
people who did make me feel like I belonged. And that's why with my TED Talk, I titled it, It's Someone, Not Something, that is the catalyst to following your dreams, because that someone was a good friend of mine, Steve, and he pushed me and pushed me throughout all the years to continue to move forward, to remind me of my worth, to remind me of how I'm going to impact and change the world and what my unique ability is. When you don't have confidence yourself, it's the people around you that remind you of your worth and give you the confidence. And it starts with love and it ends with love. So I hope I answered the question all right for
mm.
you, Melissa.
Yes, yes, and we all need a Steve, that's for sure. And we all need to be a Steve. Like, I was thinking, what if those people hadn't shown up? Like, you were in a dark space, you knew you didn't belong, you didn't love yourself, and yet somebody came into your life and showed you, like, they stood in the gap between where you didn't belong and where you did. And they somehow made it safe for you to do the work you had to do to get from not loving yourself to loving yourself. Like, imagine if those people hadn't come along.
It
Like,
was a
where
dark
might you be
place where I
today?
where I didn't think they would come along, right? And
Right.
God shows up in different magical ways and scenarios that you can't even explain. Um, but that is a big piece of it is you have to have the blind faith that you gotta do what's right in your heart, in your soul, and you gotta move through it, and it's tough, and it's hard, and it feels like you're alone, and you're by yourself, and then all of a sudden, one day, one moment, I call them miracle moments, something happens, and that changes everything. It's one of those most impactful moments in your life, but you've gotta be open to receive it, you gotta be open to navigate it, you've gotta do the work. You
Mm.
can't just walk around and I'm gonna change and I'm just waiting for this moment to happen and all these great things to occur. Like you've got to work towards it. And that was something that took me a while to learn. Took me a while to learn.
I love that miracle moment. Is there a specific miracle moment from the past or the recent past? Is there something that comes up right now that you can tell us about one of your miracle moments?
So in 2023, I lost my entire sales team. I had a big conference coming up. I invested all my cash. I just got married. Um, we just had a daughter. So I'm navigating this new marriage. I'm navigating, our first child, and I'm taking a lot of risk. I put literally $240,000 of my own cash on the line. And I lose my sales team, and the woman helping me with sponsors, she didn't get any sponsors even though she said she did. And I'm about 30 days out from this conference, and I've got like 100 tickets sold, and I'm down like 190,000. And I'm like, "Okay, I got 30 days. No one's coming to save me." And I start to have a breakdown. I remember crying to my wife at the kitchen table one night at like 11 o'clock in the evening, and I'm just like, I failed you. I failed us. I failed the family. I don't know what to do." And I'm in this moment of just, immense pressure, right? Like, as I'm even saying this right now, I'm going back to, like, like, feeling pressure in my head right now, like, because I remember how intense it felt physically and mentally and emotionally. And I woke up the next morning, and I called Steve. And I remember pacing in my backyard, and I'm just walking around my fire pit, and I'm just going back and forth, and I make the call, and Steve reminded me in that moment, he's like, "Look at your parents. Look at the situation you got out of. Look at, you didn't get the scholarship and to go to college, and you built a connection with the enrollment officer, and they let you get into community college 3 weeks late after the semester started, and they said they would never do that. Remember the time where you made the decision to stop selling and dealing. Remember navigating a new job. Remember why you're in Nashville. You didn't like the trajectory of the people and their character you were working with in Boston, and you packed up your bags. You never been to Nashville. You don't like country music, and you drove to Nashville, got a job, hated it, and started a new business, and have been an entrepreneur ever since. Like, remember all those times, Jim, when your back was up against the wall? And yeah, you might have had to scream, kick, and crawl your way out of it, but you're still standing here today. And in that moment, I broke down. I pour, pouring tears, pouring. And I'm going to get emotional thinking about it right now because it was just if I didn't have Steve, I don't know what I would have done. And I remember hanging up the phone and having this sense of power, right? Having this sense of energy back, having this sense of, I'm not doing this for me anymore. I'm doing it because I need to impact people, and I need to use my words to change the world. And I need to give people the love that I just got from Steve. So I'm going to do this conference, and the outcome doesn't matter because I'll build it back up. I'll start another business. Heck, I'll find partnerships through this process to join me in this business and to teach me, and to maybe someone will mentor me. And I sold 250 tickets in 30 days. I made every single call. I also followed up after I sold all those tickets and called everybody again and asked them, what's the thing that they need most from this conference? Because I didn't want to sell a ticket to someone who didn't need it. I would change my mindset from, I'm going to be financially unstable, to, I might as well impact people and change the world or the trajectory of others, because I don't know how this thing's going to land,
Mhm.
right? I
Mhm.
don't know if I'm going to
Right.
financially prosper.
What value can I extract if it's not gonna be dollars in the bank? What other value is there for me?
And
Smart.
that's when I started to realize that financial capital is one thing that's important to me because I need to live and I need to eat and I want to create memories, and memories sometimes cost money and experiences cost money with my family. But this thing called human capital, and human capital, and creating impact and helping people break through their barriers, that will ultimately lead to financial capital. That will ultimately lead to giving me the energy, giving me the motivation, inspiring me to show up my best, inspiring me to work on myself, inspiring me to continue one foot in front of the other, step by step, to do what I believe I've been called to do on this earth. And when I realized that human capital will always outpower financial capital, my life changed, and I've never
Mm.
looked back. And again, I'm not perfect, and it's rocky, and I take a lot of risk, and those risks don't always come with financial rewards. But I do know one thing, that I'm not alone. I've built an amazing network of people who love me, who care for me, and all I wanna do is give that same compassion and deal that same love. I was telling someone the other day, and they're like, "Dude, you're still a dealer. You're still a dealer." And I'm like, confused. You're not dealing drugs, Jim, you're dealing love. You're dealing impact. Don't ever forget that. And that again, people in my life
Mhm,
pouring into me,
mhm.
reminding me of these moments and and these miracle moments and these, my new term lately has been looking for the micro miracle moments, the little
Mm,
tiny things that we just
yeah,
roll over every day, that we walk past. And I was telling a friend, he's like, I don't have these miracle micro moments. And I'm like, okay, dude, let me give you this quick example. I started drinking my protein shakes and my super greens again, and I started putting my creatine in there. And, my wife's like, "Hey, you need to do this every day and for your health and grateful for my wife, right? And I'm like, yep, got it. I fell off, not perfect. And I'm like, oh, we need more of those like shaker blender bottles, right? So the protein breaks up and the greens and all that. And I go and I have lunch at Turn Up Truck. It's like a grocery store, right? And they have like these sandwiches, and I'm eating my sandwich, and I walk out and I see a shaker bottle, a blender bottle, and I'm like, oh, what are the odds? This is right at the register. I just told my wife I needed this, and I go up to the register, and they're like, oh, these are free. These are free. You can have it. And what's it cost? Like 7, $8 on Amazon, right? And like as I tell this story, and I was telling someone the other day, they're like, "This is like a stupid story. Like, what are you talking about?" I'm like, "It's not stupid. I'm more in tune with these micro miracle moments that add up,
yeah,
stack, and continue to compound. And when I
yes.
when I recognize them, when I observe them, I start to live with this sense of gratitude that just continues to keep happening and stacking and stacking and stacking.
Mhm,
And it puts me
mhm,
in a better state of mind, gives me more energy,
mm,
allows me to show up in my unique ability and do the things that I love. And yeah, it's a little blender bottle that would cost $7 on Amazon. But how cool was it that I literally had a conversation less than 12 hours prior? This thing shows up in my world as I'm checking out and it ends up being free. Like,
and
come
it's
on,
free.
you
No, I
know?
love that. I think we don't take, like, I love that micro moments, like, we all have them, and we're so busy doing all the stuff that we miss it. We miss it all the time. I know in the last a few years of my life, I've slowed it down to where I don't miss those things. And then when I do see them, when I do appreciate them, like we are so abundant in our world and it's so easy to miss it. So I like that you pointed out to be really more observant of those little micro moment miracles because they're all around us. They are
What's a
all around
micro moment
us.
miracle for you more recently, Melissa?
Mm. So that's a big one. Sorry, a big one came to me, a little one. So we're heading into everything I've been doing to prepare so that Elevate Villages, when it becomes, it's everything it needs to be, to first create belonging for our youth and then the skills they need and the jobs they need and the family. It's such a big, huge vision. And so I ended up here in Texas in just a beautiful space where I've been able to take time to learn and research and grow and heal and just all the things. And so I've been spending a lot of time reading and studying, and I was most recently really delving into community and how do you create community. Towards the end of the year, I was just finishing up a bunch of studies on it and doing all my, writing and figuring out, okay, now how do you put that into a plan and what's that going to look like? And then I get a call from one of the pastors at our church, and he said, Melissa, I just keep feeling like I need to reach out to you. Could you come and help us build community? Like, our church is really bad at that. Could you come and help? And he was like, take time, pray about it. And I'm like, it's a yes. Like, it's a yes. Like, an opportunity like that, I just looked at it as God gave me like this little petri dish and said, hey, you're going to build community on massive scales with people who haven't felt like they've belonged for their whole life. And by giving them belonging and creating community, you're going to change their generation and generations to come. And I know you want to do it right. So here, practice in this beautiful faith community that they love you, you love them. You're already a little bit aware of how community does and doesn't work in this church. And you don't even have to go in and tell them, hey, I want to go build community for you. Like, they came and asked me. And and it's been so much fun. I've never enjoyed something so difficult and sort of multi-layered, and yet had so much fun doing it. And so, we're only 6 weeks in at this point, and it's a really fun journey. So that's one of those things. And then micro way down. Um, where I'm at right now, I'm here because I'm their dog sitter. And every night, so this is a repeating micro miracle moment. But every night after the dogs eat, we go on a walk around this huge property. And so it's a bunch of dogs. So I found if we have a specific schedule, and it works best if I do the schedule to the sun, not to the actual time on the clock. So every night we have dinner, and then as the sun is setting, we walk around this beautiful property. And every single night I'm in awe of the beauty of nature, of the sun setting, it's just all of it. It's the most beautiful time of my day. And every single step of that walk is just gratitude, and gratitude I'm here, gratitude for the journey, gratitude for whatever happened that day. Yeah, it's so filling, and I think preparing me for the journey ahead to open villages and to be the belonging that so many youth need. So my micro moments are all pretty nature related at the moment.
Let's go. I love that. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Wow.
Jim, I don't know if you know, I think you might know, but when I met you in Nashville in 2023, which was shortly before all of this happened for you, I had gone to Nashville. This was 7 months after I had the vision of Elev8 Villages. And I had done some other prep work. And then I got brought to Nashville, and I was there. I knew for the purpose that I needed to start talking about Elev8 Villages to strangers. Like, the only people I talked about it to were my real besties, my very close friends. And only the ones that I knew would be like, yeah, you go, Melissa. If anyone can do it, you can. That's as far as I had extended my vision. And so the very first, so I've run networking groups, and I understand how important networking is. And so the very first event I went to was one of yours. And so you were probably the third stranger that I ever out loud spoke the vision of Elev8 Villages. And this is the question I have for you. I'm very slowly getting to it. In that networking space, you did something that most networkers don't do, especially the one leading the space. Because I know there's, when you're leading a network, there's so many of the behind the scenes details that you're thinking of and you're going to. And you walk up and met me, who are you? What do you do? Like, those are the normal networking conversations. And instead, you extended your hand and you said, what do you need? Like, so genuine. It wasn't just like checking off your list. Like, it was so genuine. What do you need? And it caught me off guard. Like, I was like, 'Cause what I needed to do is talk about Elev8 Villages, is I needed to get used to how do you present? How do you talk about it? What are people's questions? What do they hear? What do they don't hear? What are their preconceived ideas? But it was the most beautiful, genuine, honest networking interaction I think I'd ever had. What
Thank you.
taught you to do that? How did you go, networking is not about figuring out who you are and what you do. Networking is not about me selling you my widget. Networking's about like connecting with humans, like beyond just a surface relational level. Like I know a lot of great networkers, but Jim, there's something that it's your heart. Like, where did you learn to do that? Where did you connect the dots?
Well, I think everybody, I remember sitting down and thinking, wow, I need a lot of help, right? Like, I remember sitting down and be like, I need a lot of help. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I moved to Nashville. I thought I'd work for this company. It was terrible. I didn't know anybody really. I didn't really want to go back to Boston. I felt like if I went back, I'd be a failure, right? Like, I needed a lot of help. And
Okay.
that was in 2020, 2021. And I just thought about these events and networking, and I started doing these events in 2020 when I lost my first business. And it started out with going to some entrepreneurs and saying, "Hey, I don't know what to do. I have no money. I just built this business. I just did a vision board and drew myself on like Forbes magazine, wrote out a 5-year plan with, 38% growth year over year. We did a little under 1 million in revenue. Like I made it. I did it. I'm crushing it. Like this is crazy. This is my first venture. Like, whoa. And then COVID killed my business. I lost everything. And I remember sitting there going, well, I know I need a lot, and I don't even know what I need at this point. But let me get some people together, because if I put everything on the line, if I need help, I'm sure these other folks in this community need help. And that's where that whole spark and that whole need and all the events have started and rooted
Mm.
from was we're all similar, right? We're all going through some kind of something. We're all in
Right.
some different season. Maybe it's timing. But, like, life is a roller coaster, right? Like, there's peaks, there's valleys, you're winning, you're losing. Whenever you're winning, it never stays that way. Whenever you're losing, it never stays that way. So, in those moments that I can recall and the conversations with so many people when I started doing these events, it started out by saying, "Hey, I need help. I don't even know what I need, but how can I help you?
Mhm.
What do you need?"
Mhm.
Because if you can communicate and if you can give and ask, and I call them bold asks, like I want people to be more bold with their asks. I want them to say, This is what I need." And it's not so much that that other person can provide the perfect solution, but it gets you to start to think and start to put out in the world what it is that you need. So at first, when I started asking people this, when I started networking and connecting with folks, I was like, well, I can't solve these problems. Maybe I should stop asking people what they need. But
Right.
in turn, what that does is it allows people to breed clarity and to communicate out in the world verbally what they actually need. It
Mm.
actually pushes
Mm.
people to think. It pushes people to go, wow, I don't even really know. Well, actually, yeah, I do need this. This is what I need. And because you're asking the question doesn't mean you need to be the solution all the time.
Mm.
And for me, I'm not the solution all the time, right? If you need a better accounting system, it's not Jim, all right? And maybe I do know someone, maybe I've had experience working with a certain app or technology or client, and I can share that or I can refer that. But I think you also need
Even
to be honest
even
too.
yeah, just the gift of helping someone get clear about it. That's
It, it's
beautiful.
it's I didn't do it for a long time because I thought I had to have the solution, and giving everybody permission, to whoever's listening to this, that you're still giving a gift even if you don't have the solution, even if you don't have the network, even if you don't have the connection that they're looking for. To your exact point, that gift is just giving someone space to feel heard, giving someone space to feel seen, giving someone space to clarify what they need. Like, a lot of my conversations when someone's like, "You know what? I don't even know." And then they get emotional in a lot of ways, right? And I've asked one question,
Right.
but them getting emotional, what do you think that does? That deepens our relationship at that moment. Now I
Mm,
start to ask questions. Now I start to create compassionate curiosity. Now I start to help them clarify. Now I start to help them get to the next level. And this could be a 5-minute conversation. And in most cases, people are like, "Oh, I needed that," or "I just need to get that off my chest," or "You know what? I'm gonna go and I'm gonna spend some time tonight." And I'm always like, turn the music off, turn the TV off, go sit with a blank piece of paper. Just
yeah,
that alone can help you clarify. Just that alone can help you get an action plan in place. And it doesn't need
right.
to be me giving the solution all the time.
Mm, such a gift. You brought up compassionate curiosity, which is something you're really good at. Like, I think some of it, as much of it is like your tone and your intention, as much as it is of, oh, I'm going to be curious. Do you feel like you've always been, let's just start with curiosity. Have you always been curious, or is that something you developed for, a certain reason?
I have not always been curious. I've been self-centered for a lot of my life. I've been focused on me. I used to have a really bad problem with cutting people off when they spoke. And it was because I didn't love myself. I didn't feel that I was worthy. So I felt that I always had to jump in when I had a nugget, when I had a thought, and I had to grab the conversation and prove that I was smart and I was intelligent
Mm,
and, all these things. So it was really bad, like really bad. And I would even recognize it, not even still be able to control it. So I wasn't always good at it. And what I really had to get to was loving myself again. You'll see this is a theme that I talk about because it was the center point of a lot of my growth. But then also actually caring about other people and realizing that I can't do it alone. I don't think anybody can do it
mhm,
alone. So once I made those changes, then I started to lean into active listening. And because I wasn't cutting people off and I didn't feel like I had to speak all the time and I didn't feel like I had to prove myself, it opened up an opportunity for me to actually listen to what you're saying. And it's a skill that I had to develop because I am a visionary. I do have a lot of thoughts. I do have a lot of ideas, and I'm not perfect. So those things come in all the time, right? But I've got to
mhm,
block them and push them back out.
mhm,
And that takes reps and that took practice. But once I can actively listen and once I can focus on you and not have to prove myself, not have to say all these things, then I get the download of a great question to ask or a great loop and a
mm,
paraphrase what you said so you feel heard, you feel seen,
mhm,
and then ask a question. Because also sometimes I'll sit there and I'll actively listen and it doesn't come to me that great question to dig deeper or to develop a better relationship. So what I do in that moment of pause and I start to get more comfortable and more comfortable with just pausing and not having to respond immediately, but I'll loop. I'll make sure I understand and I heard correctly what you just said. So if you said, I went on the walk and I don't look at the actual time on the clock and I go by the sun, right? And I don't know what to say after that, or I'm trying to think about what to say, I'll just say, so you go, you don't use a clock, you go by the sun? Did I hear that right? That's super cool. And that buys me a couple seconds to really think through, okay, what's the next question I
mm,
want to ask? And as I'm paraphrasing or looping that and actively listening, it will usually come to me because then again, I'm literally saying twice what you just said. And when I loop it and when I paraphrase it back to you, I'm saying it in a way with verbiage and vernacular that I can download quicker. It's my voice. I'm hearing my voice and
Mhm.
I'm using the words that I would describe it in. And then it gives me that opportunity to ask a question so I can be more compassionate and actually care. But the foundation of that is I have to love myself enough to trust myself that I am a good person, that I do care, that I do want to connect with you.
Mhm.
And then I'll give you the opposite spectrum. I will ask questions and realize that I don't care and I don't want to talk to you and I don't align with you. And that's why I think human connection is so important because you can understand who your people are very quickly. You can also understand who your people aren't very
So how do you
quickly.
get out of that when you realize that we're misaligned? This is not a person I'm going to want to build a deep relationship with. How do you exit that conversation gracefully and with wasting as little time as possible?
There's two things that I do. One, I just say, "Excuse me, I need to use the restroom."
Okay.
And then the other thing is a mindset trick of I don't owe this person anything.
Hmm.
Like, I don't owe you my time. And I'm not going to be rude or I'm not going to be mean to you, but I just might say, okay, and just walk away. It takes me knowing myself at the highest level that I don't purposely want to hurt anybody in my life. I don't want to purposely hurt anybody who doesn't align with me. There's someone else in that room at that event that I do want to talk to, that I
Mhm.
am curious about, that I can help, that I do want to connect with, that I do want to build a relationship. And it's not fair to that next person that I didn't get time to talk to or to connect deeply because I spent it on someone else
Mhm.
that I didn't want to connect with that isn't going to help me, that I'm not going to help them. So it's confidence that, and it's practice that every minute or second I spend with that person is 1 minute or 1 second that I don't get to spend with someone that I align with, that I can really help, that I want to help, that I do care about, that I am compassionate about. So I'm not hurting them, but also in those moments, they might get an inclination that maybe they said something that wasn't right. And I think that's also something that shows that I do probably care a little bit about them too, because maybe they realize, wow, I must have said something that
Mm.
didn't align, or do I actually believe that? Was that the right thing to say to Jim?
Mm.
Right. And I'm not, I'm just a regular person. So it's not like people need to be perfect and say all these great things to me. But my hope is maybe they picked up on that turned me off a lot. And maybe they rethink some things they say for the greater good of loving themselves and maybe for the greater good of loving others. But you have to protect your time and energy because if I'm going to spend another 5 minutes with you and we're totally misaligned, my energy
Mhm.
is going to be awful for the next person. And even if I do walk to the bathroom and someone grabs me on the way in and I just spent 10 minutes with someone, my whole energy is gonna be thrown off, and I'm not even
Mhm.
gonna be able to have a good conversation with that person that maybe they were waiting for me to finish that conversation. Maybe they wanted to talk. Maybe they had something they wanted to share. I'm not even gonna be able to show up myself because that person literally drained me. Like, I'm
Right.
so done with talking to people that I don't align with, not
Mhm.
because I wanna be mean or hurtful. It's because the most important thing to me is energy, not time. So it's not a time thing that they sucked from me, it's the energy that they sucked from me.
Got it. I had heard earlier today, actually, I was talking to someone and they were talking about the difference between being kind and being nice. And sometimes we err on being too nice. Oh, I don't want to leave the conversation. Oh, what if they think I don't like them? But being kind is being authentic, it's being real. And sometimes being nice means we're not showing up as our true self. We're like feeling some sort of a conditional, oh, I have to act this way or that way. So I think what I'm hearing you say is that you're choosing kindness. This connection is not going to go anywhere. We're probably not going to give each other great energy leaving. I need to be available my best self for the next person. So I'm going to be kind and exit this conversation, opposed to let me be nice and not make any waves. So that was a perfect example for me from that conversation earlier of being kind over being nice. So, yeah,
Kindness is king.
kindness is king. So, in a world where we are digitally distracted and otherwise, let's wrap our beautiful conversation up with talking about how important it is as humans that we come back to connection, to human connection, one on one. And I'm the first to say I'm so glad I have a cell phone and I connect with people all over the world because of technology. And what I've been observing about myself lately is when I'm out, like in public or I'm waiting, it's so easy. Like I'm never frustrated when I'm in line anymore because I just pull out my phone. And then one day I remember I used to talk to people in the grocery store line. If I was waiting in a waiting room, you used to strike up conversations, and we're not doing that anymore. So just at that fundamental level of being disconnected and distracted and being in a room of people and not creating any connection at all. And then on the opposite side of that is, wow, thank goodness for technology. I can connect to people around the world. What would your greatest advice be for human connection? Like, how can we make our connections matter? How can we show up and connect when needed? And when should we utilize technology to create connections that we might not be able to get in the physical present world?
Great question. Great question. As you're saying this, I think about my kids, right? And early on, I've got two young kids, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And for the first couple of years with my daughter, I felt that I had to be with her 24/7 all the time. I stopped speaking for a while. I stopped traveling. And what I realized, and my wife helped me realize this, was it's not so much about always being with her, it's about being present in the moments that I am with her. So, for instance, I can still go speak and travel and be gone for a couple days, but I need to be present when I am with her because that's what matters most.
Mm,
And even though I was with her a lot those first couple of years, I'd be on my phone, I'd be writing emails, I'd be working, and I wasn't as present. And then I started to realize that she would be focusing on my phone because I was focusing on it.
mm,
So she wasn't even being present with me when I wanted to be present. And
mhm.
as you know, with children, it's it's not taught, it's caught, right? So I was caught not being
Mm,
present, which in turn taught her to not be present.
mm,
And it's not like I give her a cell phone, right? She's 2, she's 3, like, it's not like but she would be grabbing my phone out of my hand, or she'd be, wanting to be on it, right? And play with it all the time when I wanted the love, I wanted the connection. So I think you just have to have presence,
mm,
and it's hard to do that with all the distractions. Now,
mhm,
I love technology, I love social media, I love AI, but the natural way that our brains have worked around it is to use it as a tool which causes disconnection. If you use it in the right way, it can create amazing connection. And I'll give you an example. Rather than liking everybody's posts on social media, what if you actually read the copy that they wrote? You scrolled through and you sent them a direct message. And in that direct message, you used a voice memo. So that way they could hear your
mm,
voice, hear your tonality, hear your energy, and they knew it was real. They knew it was you. Anytime I've had a conference, and I've got one coming up right now, 7 minutes of impact, and we're going to sell 100 tickets. I decided to do this 5 days ago. So it's like a 20-day lead up time for 100 tickets. It's the fastest event I've decided to do and make it happen quickly. And my plan right now is to send voice memos online and to do the work of really
Mm,
understanding who that person is and telling them, "Hey, I think this would be a great fit for you because of XYZ. I'm really
right.
excited to potentially get to know you deeper and connect." And so I think we have some of these tools at our disposal, but it's really how are you going to use them? And it comes back to, are you trying to build a connection? Are you trying to be present? And it doesn't need to be perfect. Like some of these I'll do walking and cars will be going by and my kids will be in the background and James will be crying because he dropped his cheese stick and now there's dog hair on it and he doesn't want it anymore, but he wants another cheese stick. Right.
Mm,
And that's the real raw truth. That's the natural stuff. And it's not trying to put me in a box and be perfect and use ChatGPT to send this correct message, but it's me just flowing off of who I am. And back to what we were talking about, talking to people like they're a buddy, they're a friend, they're a homie. Like,
mhm.
yo, Melissa, what's happening? How you living?
Yeah,
Rather than like,
yeah.
"Hey, Melissa, this is Jim Morris, and I run all these events, and I'm a TEDx speaker, and you have to be there. There's only 2 tickets left, and I just launched it yesterday." Like, that's all the bullshit that you're taught in sales, and you're stuffy, and you use these different decision making biases, and it just doesn't work anymore. Like
We need
people
each
people
other.
don't want it.
Mhm, mhm.
It's my main theme right now is like connect or die. And that doesn't mean that it's a physical death. It means it's an internal death of
Yeah.
love. And how do you navigate this world of AI?
Mhm,
Human connection. It's the only way to do it and to use
mhm.
the tools to continue to be you and show up and love on others.
Wow. That's Jim. That is why that is why you're Jim and you're on this, podcast. So, Jim, you also have your own podcast called Impact Effect. I was on it a while back. I'll put the link down below. Jim is an amazing interviewer. Great questions always. And congratulations to you. I know now it's gone completely in person, which is very exciting. And talk about energy, like the energy can be so different there. And then tell us a little bit about your upcoming event, 7 Minutes of Impact. I know I have a few listeners there in Nashville if they want to go check it out. 7 Minutes of Impact. Tell us about that real quick.
Yeah, yeah. I'm excited to get you to Nashville again so we can do the podcast in person. Um, because we are, and your episode was absolutely amazing. But we just hit over 750,000 downloads. So the
Congratulations.
conversations, thank you. The conversations of impact and those moments of impact have really got to the hearts and souls of our audience. 7 minutes of impact. It's 7 speakers, 7 minutes, and the whole point of shrinking down the time frame is because I want people to share the most impactful insights with the audience. Not information, insights. What did you extract from those impactful
Mm.
moments that you can share with others that you'll pour into their heart and be extremely impactful? So it's here in Nashville at Music City Work Club, one of my newest projects. It's a co working space, but we don't use the word co working, we use co winning because we want to help collaborate, we want to co win together.
Love it.
Ultimately, we want to do the things we love with the people we love. And in order to do that, we need the vision, we need to see it, we need to do it, take action, we need to be it, and we need to do it together. So we've got 7minutesimpact.com. Check it out. Check out Music City Work Club. I'd love to meet you, love to shake your hand, and I'd love to ask you what you need.
Jim, I'm honored to call you a friend of mine. Over the last 3 years, every time we talk, it's those deep human conversations. And I want to let you know I appreciate you so much for being with me on this journey of Elevate Villages. You're always so supportive and willing to make connections. I am excited to get back to Nashville and be there. For the podcast, for whatever ever event you're doing, I'm excited to meet you out there on stages as the years continue to roll along. You are definitely my people. You will always belong to me and in my circles. So thank you for that. Thank you so much to Dee Laughlin. She is our patron who makes the Belonging Podcast possible. Thank you to our listeners. Be sure to subscribe, put in the comments what you want us talking about here at the Belonging Podcast. You do belong here with us. That's it for today's episode. This has been the Belonging Podcast by Elev8 Villages, where we build belonging together.